Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, and a welcome to you. It's, what is it? It's March 27th. What do I know? It's a Monday. And I want to get things started off today, reminding ourselves of the fact that an awful lot of our neighbors struggle often in silence and invisible to us, to do something that we take for granted, which is feeding our families. I mean, I personally have never, lost sleep over whether or not there's enough food in my pantry, in my kitchen, to feed the people that I am responsible for. But unfortunately, that is not the case for thousands and thousands of people, often hard-working people who aren't being paid living wages. So I just want to alert you, first thing out of the gate this week, to the fact that the possibility of this kind of crisis in other people's lives, in our neighbors' lives, growing now is very real, with the loss of money that we think of as food stamps. It's called SNAP. That's the program, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And the amount of money that people have been getting for years has been cut. I want to just bring in someone who can talk to us about what it is, what the impact is, what the need is, because it's something that we, who I think like to think of ourselves as good community members, as true citizens, need to know. And so joining us is Chris West. He is the Director of Community Connections and Collaborative Learning for the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. And Chris, I thank you so much for taking this time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, and thanks for talking about this really important issue.
Yes. People, those of us who don't get SNAP, we don't know about this. I don't know that the media, even though it does sort of cover it, really pay a lot of attention to it. But it's an actual lifeline, SNAP is, for so many people. So what happened during the pandemic? The amount of give me the history and why there's now this cutback of funds.
Yeah, absolutely. So early on in the pandemic, Congress passed what was called emergency allotment benefits for SNAP, so which was an extra payment that people were getting every month. So they get their normal SNAP benefit payment the first half of the month. The second half of the month, they would get this emergency allotment payment. This month, actually, just in the last 2 weeks here, is the first time in a long time that folks are not getting that emergency allotment payment. Now, it was temporary. We always knew it was going to end, but it's just the timing is tough for families with inflation. The way it is, and people spending more for food, spending more for heating their homes. It's a tough time to be losing that benefit this month.
Now, in terms of just first of all, who gets this benefit? What households are we talking about? Elderly people, households with young children. Who are the main beneficiaries?
Yeah. So everybody that was receiving SNAP got this temporary emergency allotment payment. And I will say, the majority of folks receiving SNAP are elderly, people with disabilities, and children. So that's the majority that we're talking about. And as you said, people that are working 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs, but just aren't, able to make ends meet. So, and it's a lot of people in our region on a given day. There's about 346,000 people in southwestern Pennsylvania that are receiving SNAP, and every single one of them is going to receive a cut of at least $95, and sometimes as much as hundreds. So yeah, they're just seeing that, for the first time this month, not getting that money in their on their SNAP EBT card.
Well, I'm looking at something that I saw that says the minimum they'll lose is at $95 a month. Statewide
Correct.
average $181 per month.
Yeah.
Not that they're getting thousands of dollars. I mean, that's got to represent a pretty heavy hunk of money. And as you say, coinciding with this inflation of food prices.
It is. It's a large chunk of money for families that are struggling to put food on the table. And as you said, the average household in Pennsylvania receiving SNAP is going to lose $180 a month. In these temporary benefits. So it's, folks are struggling. We did talk to someone just recently in Washington County, and it was a mother, a daughter, the father worked seasonal jobs, and they were receiving over $600 in SNAP benefits with the emergency allotments. Now with those temporary payments ending, it's going to be $46 a month. So that they receive. So some families, this can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Oh my God!
That they're going to have to, figure out now.
So, are you already seeing, since this, you said it, you're already, the money has stopped.
Yeah.
So, are you already seeing the human toll in people coming to the food bank?
Well, we have been seeing it actually, and then so now it's going to be even more. So I will say, from July through December, the amount of food that we were giving up 15%, the amount of calls we're getting up 30%. And that was before this. So
wow,
we've been seeing an increased need, and folks that we talk to on the phone are talking about it. They're worried, about the payments ending. So we expect, the amount of food that we're giving out, the amount of calls that we're getting, to keep going up starting, this month and going forward.
So we're talking about over, as many as 2 million people in the state, and as you said, 350,000 people in our area.
Yeah.
This is a substantial amount of people, and most of us living our lives, we don't think about the fact that people are hungry. It seems unbelievable.
Yeah, and it is kind of, it's one of those problems that's not really talked about, and people that are experiencing it, they don't often talk about their experience and the struggles they're facing. So sometimes it's kind of this invisible problem, but in our region, 1 in 7 people face food insecurity. Struggling to make sure that they have enough healthy food to feed their families. That's 1 in 5 kids. So it's a pervasive problem, but a problem that sometimes flies under the radar, and sometimes people don't know. It's our neighbors, that are struggling.
Right. So some of us who get Social Security checks have noticed that there's a little more in that because of inflation. That is that Social Security, gives you more money as money doesn't stretch as far. But what that can do to somebody who's getting SNAP benefits, an old person getting SNAP benefits, they get that little increase in their Social Security check, and it can put them over the threshold to receive the food stamps. And
we are. Yeah. Some seniors, exactly, are seeing a reduction in their SNAP benefits, which, some of the folks that are hit the hardest here are seniors. So that's a big concern of ours, is to make sure that they're healthy, are able to get the food that they need. And I know we've been hearing from seniors that, with hardships, with inflation, trade-offs are getting even more extreme. There are some seniors that are now just not taking prescriptions to save money, that we've heard on the phone. So, which is heartbreaking. And we know that there's a lot of folks struggling out there, and that's, we're here to help no matter how much the need goes up, no matter, we're here to help however we can.
Okay, Chris, I guess I just wanted my audience to be aware of this, and I want you to tell us what each one of us can conceivably do. I would imagine we can donate money, we can donate our time, volunteer. Are both those things needed? Obviously.
Absolutely. So folks can donate money, time, food, all of that is needed. Folks can just visit our website, pittsburghfoodbank.org, to see how they can help. And we know, when the pandemic first hit, we saw a huge increase in need, and the community responded, and we were able to meet that need. So we know, in this new increased need that we're seeing, we know the community is going to respond and help us so we can meet that need. And we're really thankful for however folks can help. And I will say, if folks are listening that do need help, or a phone number to pass on, maybe to your neighbor that might need help, our call center is ready to help however we can. So that's 833-822-7627. That's 833-822-7627.
7627. That's the hotline for if somebody feels that they, in fact, might be eligible for this kind of help to get in touch with. So does the food bank actually help people get through the bureaucratic stuff of how to sign up, how to do it, how to get food? Oh, we wonderful.
Do, yeah.
Okay.
So, we can help, whether it's helping somebody submit a SNAP application just over the phone, so they don't have to go anywhere.
Okay.
Or helping somebody sign up for senior boxes, or a local food pantry, or drive-up distribution. There's a lot of food resources that we can help folks access. Food for kids and teens. So we're happy to help and let folks sign up and let them know what's close and convenient to them.
And that's the number to call. 833-822-7627. We'll make sure we put that up on our Facebook page and
great.
Get that out. And also, if you have any time and really want to do volunteer work that is truly meaningful and needed, or if you just want to write a check, there's no greater need right now, or makes you feel good to help. I just wanted to give you that opportunity. And Chris West, thank you so much for taking the time. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too. Okay, guys. So I keep reading stuff about what I'm continuing to feel are the millions upon millions of invisible Americans who, we live our lives, many of us, with none of these kinds of issues, and and what's amazing is find our lives stressful. I mean, I'm thinking I find my life stressful. Unbelievable. I am not stressed in any way like so many others who don't have the resources that I have. They're stressed by these huge forces beyond their control. They're stressed by their lack of money, by their lack of work that pays them in a humane way. They're stressed by age and disability. And there are these programs, but in our country, we begrudgingly help people. And that's a part of the American character. And when I say that begrudgingly, I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about our government. There's a begrudging aspect. This just insidious and incessant idea that so many people hold, that people in need are in need because it's their fault, or they're lazy, or they've done something wrong. And it's so not. So write that number down if you know anybody who maybe could benefit, if you want to help. I did a tour of the food bank, I believe it was about, I don't know, it was last summer, I guess. I was blown away. I was really blown away. I had never seen it in operation. It's amazing. And it's huge because the need is there. So there you go. Just wanted to get things started with something that actually might help some people instead of just the usual hand wringing that goes on around here. Oh, God. March effing madness. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Almost every game a nail biter. Almost every game an upset. It just is what you wanted. Drama. You wanted entertainment. There's been nothing more entertaining. Even if you're not normally a basketball fan, I would defy somebody to watch one of these games and not get sucked in, as I obviously totally have. Anyway, just saying. They're down to 4 teams. And wow, 3 games left. That's it. And man, I'll miss it when it's gone. I truly will. All righty. So where to start? I have to tell you that a lot of my attention has been not in the insanity that's happening in our country, which continues apace. Just say one word: Waco. But rather looking in just amazement at Israel. And I'm not sure what's going to happen today, but Israel is right now at an inflection point that I have never, and Israel and I are the same age. I have been there 3 times. I know the history. I appreciate much of what the people there have done. I decry quite a bit of what the government has done. But to see the people of Israel in the streets, I have never, ever seen any. And the thing is, it is a total cross. Netanyahu, to me, is as evil and dangerous a person as Donald Trump. He is of the same ilk, not quite as insane as Trump, but the same autocratic tendencies, the same lust for power, and clearly the same ability to sell his country to save himself. to destroy his country's democracy to save himself and his power. And that's akin, of course, to Donald Trump. So the Israelis, I've just never seen anything like it, because they've closed the place down. They've closed it down. You can't fly in or out of that country right now. Can't. They've closed down the airport, the international airport, Ben Gurion in Tel Aviv. You cannot go to any of the universities right now. The universities have closed down. Essentially their AFL-CIO, their huge union, I believe it's called Histadrut, has essentially called a general strike. Highways are blocked. Doctors are only performing emergency procedures. Members of the military and reservists are in the streets. It is across the board, and it is all of the drivers of the Israeli economy, the tech sector, the educated people, the people who are, it is really, and a huge numbers of, in Israel, you serve in the military. So the military is the people. So when you look at those people in the street, that's the military. And the fact that Netanyahu, just with one sentence, summarily fired the head of Israeli security, essentially the defense secretary, for saying that he felt that what was going on was a national security threat, much like what's going on in our country with the Trump thugs and what they intend being a national security threat. I mean, if you can be fired, you're the head of national security, and you say, I think we've got a really serious problem. You actually go on television to say this is a huge threat to the country, one we've never seen before, and then you get fired for doing your job, which is, concerned about the national security. Unbelievable. And it was that really seems to have broken the camel's back. I don't know. I had texted my brother a few days ago and had said, I just can't imagine. Are we seeing the potential of a civil war? And he sent me a video of one of his former, I guess he was a former student who then later became a professor of law himself in Israel. He is an Israeli. And he was addressing one of these huge crowds. And wow, it is so clearly that the people in the streets represent, and he made clear that this is not so simple as Republicans versus Democrats. It's not. He said there are people here he says there are even, Orthodox people here. Everybody assumes that they're all in with this. There are people from all parties. Netanyahu, by trying to save himself, could conceivably destroy his political party, Likud, which has been in power for so long. He supposedly was supposed to address the nation a few hours ago. He did not. And there's been silence since. And the sense had been that he was going to capitulate. And I cannot imagine what is going on there now. But my hope is that this is the end of him. That this will bring him down and will bring the Israelis who have never supported him back. People who believe in compromise, people who believe in it's just unbelievable. I don't know. I'm freaked out by it. And the idea, I mean, even the general counsel, the Israeli guy here, the general counsel here, I'm not sure what the title is. He resigned. The guy here, Israel's guy in Consul General in New York, he resigned as well. So Bibi might have finally stepped over the line. Obviously, I think he stepped over the line many times a long time ago. But so I have to admit, I was watching with great fear and trepidation, and I'm feeling a little more hopeful today because of the incredible tenacity and passion of the Israeli people in the streets. Just amazing. If you look at them, it's young, old, black, white. It's just amazing. People who normally, don't necessarily agree on a lot of stuff. And there they are. Bibi's managed to bring them together. We can only hope that something like that can happen in our country. But if it has to reach a point where literally the very survival of the democracy, which is what's at stake in Israel, and I believe at stake in the United States as well. This same kind of scenario, these forces of authoritarianism and nationalism versus people who believe in democracy. This is happening in so many places in the world. And you see, like, the autocratic countries, this alliance now, Russia and China and even Iran being brought into the fold. You want a troika of horror? There it is. And we must stand against it. It's a formidable foe. And each country has its own fight. And then on the global stage, the fight plays out as well. It's really huge. Such consequential times. I want to just because there seems to be some continuity to it, I want to just stay with some Jewish subjects, namely that the son of a bitch, murderous bastard who blew away 11 wonderful Jewish people at Tree of Life. What is it, 3 years ago? I mean, it's forever ago. Do you remember that phrase, speedy justice? What in the name of God has kept this Bowers jerk from having to stand trial for his crimes, for his mass murder. He's sitting there getting 3 squares a day. And the reason really is because it's a federal death penalty case, apparently. And that, man, a federal death penalty case, when everything we've seen, even with Trump's machinations about how to stall here, stall there, how you can just continue to keep stalling and stalling. But the stalling's about to end because the trial is starting next month. The choosing of a jury is going to be extremely difficult because to find somebody who says they don't know anything about it, whatever, it's going to be tough. And because it's a death penalty trial, you have to seat people who are willing to impose the death penalty. If it's a death penalty trial, you can't be a juror if you don't believe in the death penalty. You're excluded. And within the Jewish community here, there's just a great deal of concern and for the witnesses, the people who will be called after all this time trying to get their lives back on track, to try to have to relive in just excruciating detail what happens. But justice delayed is justice denied, and this has been justice delayed. Another item that doesn't get much attention is those of us who live in the neighborhood. I go by Tree of Life every day, sometimes 2 or 3, 4 times a day. And it still stands there because of it. Just stands there, this hulk now, surrounded by still those fences with the posters on them. And it's hard, every day you go by, not to be reminded of the fact that of this horror, and then that no one has stood trial, even though we know who the son of a bitch is. And, this internationally acclaimed architect was brought in, and Tree of Life is going to be reimagined. It's going to be rebuilt. And one of the things they're going to do is the big, beautiful main chapel there, the Pervin Chapel, which I had been in many times. I was once there for a wedding of, it had to be about 5 couples being married at once. They were all Russian Jews who had finally gotten the hell out of Russia and gotten here, who had never been allowed to worship freely there, nor to have a Jewish wedding. And so even though they were already married, to see these couples married in a more meaningful way was just wondrous. And that was there. Many other things there. But that thing will be, it's not going to exist as a chapel according to the plans that have been approved. And I just want to share with you something that was written to the Jewish newspaper here by someone who was orphaned by the massacre. His parents, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, were killed that day, October 27th, 2018. Good God, it's been 4 years, more than 4 years. Oh, God. Anyway, their son, Mark, disagrees with the fact that this chapel will not exist. And he wrote such a heartfelt piece to the Jewish community. I don't think it's going to make a bit of difference because the powers that be have spoken. And there are other family survivors who disagree and don't want that place where their parents or their brothers were mowed down to exist. They want it gone. But the case he makes is so compelling. And you see, here's where you see how an act of violence has the ripple effect that it just rips people apart who are alive, who have to stay alive. And they wrestle with questions that there are perhaps no easy answers to, which is why he has written in opposition to the plans for that beautiful sanctuary, which is essentially, I mean, it won't be a sanctuary anymore. It'll be something else. And he said this is the chapel where my parents' lives together began on December 22nd, 1956, at their wedding ceremony. And this is the chapel where their lives tragically and senselessly were ended on October 27th, 2018. So his mom and dad were married in that room and then were brutally murdered in that room. And he thinks it's short-sighted to destroy it. He says this: everything within those walls tells a story. The bullet holes in the walls, the bullet holes in the steps and in the sacred ark and in the pews and furniture, the carpet and the artifacts, they need to be preserved exactly as they were left. Future generations must not be denied the opportunity to experience the utter and absolute horror, terror, and helplessness, the agony, the shock, the loneliness, the abandonment, the disbelief that those people experienced as they realized they were about to be killed. Future generations will need to connect physically and emotionally to fully comprehend the magnitude of the most horrific anti-Semitic event in American history. And that can only be achieved by leaving that chapel intact. Not by photographs of it, not by removing certain things and putting them in a display. And then he points out how the preservation of scenes of slaughter are important. You know, in Europe, many concentration camps were purposely destroyed and others meticulously preserved. And again, arguments on both sides for how you memorialize the victims of I'm sorry, adjectives escape me. But if we are to educate future generations on the evils that occur there, he in fact quotes Dwight Eisenhower, who visited one of the camps with General Patton and General Omar Bradley. And he was, well, as anyone was, so repulsed that Ike wrote to General George Marshall, who was the chief of staff of the Army, and said, I made the visit deliberately in order to be in a position to give first-hand evidence of what happened here. And so in the future, if there develops a tendency to charge that these allegations are merely propaganda. In other words, Ike saw what would happen and has happened, that people will deny the Holocaust ever happened. And he wanted, but the thing is, the people who, like Ike, saw it, they're dying. They're almost all dead. So do you then preserve their stories, but do you preserve the physics? Gettysburg, have you been to see Gettysburg? Normally that would have been turned into shopping malls, right? But it wasn't. And why is that? 50,000 Americans were killed on that land. And that land is preserved as a solemn reminder of the horrors of war. So this guy, orphaned by the attack at Tree of Life, is saying that the same should apply here. And he's going to be, I think, denied. He ends his piece saying, to this end, I respectfully ask and hope that the leaders here respond to this plea before the chapel is destroyed and gone forever. Now, the plans call for, obviously, that building will have all kinds of stuff in it about what happened there, but the there won't be there anymore. And there are others. I read another letter written by some other survivors who said they did not want this death scene, this horrible, bloody death scene, to be how their loved ones were remembered. But see, I don't think preserving the place does that. I think it does create this powerful space to stand in it, to know what happened, to see where the people who are gone were sitting. I don't know. So I'm just saying these things, I bring you news from Jews. And this coincides with, again, a headline, New York Times, hate crimes against Jews hit a high last year. So what Bowers did was almost, it was like, it was like the first horror. The gunshot that was heard, the gunshots that were heard by many others who would like to follow. There's been a 36% rise in crimes against Jews, crimes of assault, violence. And we still have people on the right and commentators stoking fears. Tucker Carlson, are you there? And others about replacement theory. And anytime you hear replacement theory, that's this theory that the Jews are behind this this conspiracy to replace white people. And it's all funded by George Soros, Jew. The former head of the, I think, of the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, says, I mean, we have, in the last few years, seen anti-Semitism normalized in ways that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. And I don't, and as a Jew who's lived my entire life here, I can tell you, yeah. And any Jew who knows history is not feeling real comfortable with where a lot of Americans are heading. I learned something in reading this report that I never heard. There was a professor in Arizona last year who was mowed down by a student, a former student, who killed him because he thought he was Jewish. He wasn't. That's a poor guy who got killed because he was mistaken as a Jew. His name was Thomas Mexner. Anyway, I'm just saying, a lot of that stuff has crossed my my so-called desk, aka my dining room table, and I wanted to share it with you and my thoughts. Okay. To look at the I didn't look at it. I just have read about it. The Waco Trump rally. That, guys, that does look and sound like a fascist rally. It does. And the fact that it was opened by people who were part of the insurgency at the Capitol on January 6th, who've now formed a chorus, the J6 prison choir. I kid you not. So it opened with them singing, I guess a recording. I don't know. They couldn't have been there, right, if they're in jail. They managed to get together and record, the Star Spangled Banner, something. And while they're singing, Trump recites the Pledge of Allegiance. This is fascist crapola. And David French, writing in the Times today, said something that I agree with completely, that Trump, his this might be considered the cult of Trump, right? But he's not really in charge anymore. Because what you can see is that the mob, the thugocracy, the fact-denying mob that is the base now of this cult, pretty much controls him. Recall that there are times when he spoke that he said that he had received a COVID vaccine, and his cult members booed him. French writes, there may have been a time when Trump truly commanded this movement, but that time is past. The movement now commands him. Fed by conspiracies, it is hungry for confrontation and rallies like Waco to demonstrate its perceived dominance. I'm not sure what we're going to do with this monster, but it is a monster. And it's a monster that will devour Trump eventually and will clearly devour, I think, the Republican Party. It already has. They're all afraid of it. It's always said as they're afraid of Trump. But they're really afraid of, this Fox audience, this QAnon crowd that is, they are deranged. Deranged. And I think that most Americans know it. And just like in Israel, I think the true majority in this country is not going to tolerate Donald Trump taking us down. If the Republican Party has gotten so weak that it is going to, that he's going to win a nomination again? Or that the party will rip itself apart? Those who still will have fealty to him and those desperate to, save the party in some supposedly palatable form. They cannot be allowed to succeed because it's the end of this country if they do. Now, what's funny is they think the same about us. But see, they are deranged. The guy who now heads the chapel in Waco that took over from, I guess, David Koresh. It's called Mount Carmel. Here's what he told his congregation. Donald Trump is the anointed of God. Okay, right there, I rest my case. I rest my case. You have to be frigging insane. Donald Trump is the anointed of God. He is the battering ram that God is using to bring down the deep state of Babylon. And so you got Trump now doing exactly what he did before January 6th, and even sort of more so on his little Truth Social platform. Literally calling on his thugs to, take to the streets again. Here's where I think he's not. I don't know. You think? So when they tried this rape case, Trump's defense being, she's not my type. She'd been my type, I might have raped her, but she's not my type. He's clearly telling his thugs to take out the DA, Bragg, who's he got a letter the other day that says in big capital letters, just like the Donald does, Alvin, I am going to kill you. Trump has called the DA, Mr. Bragg, an animal. He tells his people our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. He's called Bragg a degenerate psychopath that hates the USA. And this is the anointed of God. Yeah, I can see God saying, that's my kind of guy. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Boy. And so, another indication that people who are not deranged see the deranged as truly dangerous. The judge in this rape case has declared that the jury will be anonymous. In other words, I mean, even the district attorney won't know who the jurors are or where they live or any identifying information, nor will the defenders, his defenders. So that trial starts on April 25th. He'll be getting tried that trial kicks off about the same time that the Tree of Life trial happens here. Going to be a lot going on. And the judge, concerned about the safety of the jury, has said no one's going to know who they are. And I mean, they're not just that. Every single day of the trial, the jurors are going to be assembled at a different location. And then they will be let go at a different location. Undisclosed locations every day of the trial for where they'll be picked up and brought in to the court, and then where they'd be dropped off. The amount of security around these people will be extraordinary, and the kind of thing only seen when you got mob bosses on trial. But this is a mob boss on trial. That's what he is. We saw the mob. There they all were in Waco on Saturday. That's his mob. And he makes threats and he urges them to violence. And the judge is treating this as if he's got a number one mafiosa. So, yeah. So, that's what's going on. Incredible. All right, guys, I think that's it for me. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back tomorrow, joined by my sister, Susan. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.